guys, welcome back to the channel. So we have a couple of Q&A sessions coming up. You sent in so many questions through YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and Patreon. So thank you to everyone who submitted questions. I will mention names where I can. And in this session we are covering guinea pig behaviours and dominance, taming and human interaction, grooming and a bit of general care, diet and vet stuff in there as well. So a lot to cover. Warning, it could be a long one, but I am going to try and answer as many questions as possible. And if you've not submitted a question for the Q&A, but you've asked questions recently or in the past on my videos, then there's a good chance that you might get something that you've been wondering about answered in this video. So stick with us. Okay, let's get stuck into our first topic, which is guinea pig behaviours. And Margaret on Facebook, you wanted to know about the chances of reintroducing your female who had recently been spayed but had fallen out with her two other cage mates, and the chances of them being friends again and being back to being a trio. So unfortunately, it is relatively common for bonds to break over relatively short things like surgeries or any situation where the guinea pigs are split up for, I'd say, more than a couple of days really. And you might remember going back in my own piggies where I had Lyra and Twiglet fall out after Twiglet had been spayed and she'd been separated from the others for a matter of 4 to 5 days. When I put them back together, things seemed a little bit tense, but they had a fight whilst I was out of the house, and when I got back, Lyra was covered in blood. She had a massive slit in her lip. It had to be glued back together. It was this whole nightmare. So I did eventually get them to live together again through a series of introductions on neutral ground and carefully watching their behaviours to see who was going to be the one to back down. So I would definitely give reintroductions a go. It could go either way. Some bonds are just broken for good and there's nothing we can do, and the guinea pigs will always fight when you put them together. Others, there is a slight chance that they will be okay. And as they did live together as well, then hopefully it's more on that side, but you'll really have to see. And also for anyone bonding guinea pigs, try not to intervene unless things actually proper kick off and there's a fight, because it's really important that you let those behaviours scale up and scale up. They're testing each other until one of them backs down. If you stop that process too early and they don't get to the end point where no one decides that, all right, you're going to be the boss, then they have to go back to square one and start the process again. Okay, next up we have MJ Anderson on Instagram, and you asked me about your unneutered boar who's 3 to 4 years old, lives on his own, and what would you do about bonding? Would neutering be an option for him? Well, I think the best advice for anyone with a single male piggy who's not neutered is to go to a rescue and try and do some piggy bonding with them, and hopefully as a result of that also have a backup plan in place in case things don't work out. So you might be able to get a young baby male guinea pig to go in with him from a pet shop, but things can change when that young baby reaches adolescence and challenges the adult, and male guinea pigs can fall out in those situations. You could do that also with a rescue, but they'd be there to take back that guinea pig you adopted and try another solution for you. And as for neutering, there's a risk with any operation, but I think with this one, it is a relatively simple operation, and depending on how the vets do it, there can be a low risk of complications. If you're researching it, I would recommend going and watching Nacho's vlog. Where is he? He's just being a blob in the background, where I kind of run through my research process, the vet selection process, and everything from start to finish. You'll see him, the day he went, when he came back, what the recovery was like. So that's a really good video if you want to learn more about neutering, and any videos that I mention in this Q&A, I will pop them down in the description below. Okay, next up we have a question from a mum with a system on Instagram. Now you asked me about your rescue guinea pigs that you'd recently adopted, and one of them seeming like crazily dominant towards the other one, where the submissive one is squealing and running away from them, and it's just not nice to watch. And I can sympathise with this. I have had similar-ish experiences in the past where there's a submissive piggy who just will do anything to get out of the dominant piggy's way, and then the dominant piggy can also be like incessantly chasing and seeming to be aggressive without actually breaking out into any fights. It's a tricky situation, and I think you mentioned that you'd recently adopted them, so it could well be that they were happily bonded before, but they've gone through this stressful process of moving home, they're in an entirely new environment, and that can result in these behaviours. I would say that try not to worry about the squealing too much, because guinea pigs are dramatic. Submissive piggies can squeal and we can be like, oh my god, what's wrong? Where are you hurt? Where's the blood? And they're just vocalizing the fact that they're being submissive. It's not as big a deal as it seems. I think in your case, hopefully this is right, things will settle down, and it could take a fair few weeks or even a few months before they are happier in their environment. The dominant pig can calm down and realise that she doesn't need to be lording it about all of the time, and hopefully they'll get on just fine. If it continues and you are genuinely worried, then I would consider the chance of something hormonal going on, such as ovarian cysts with the one who's dominant. They can come into heat, but that should pass after a few days. As for getting a new guinea pig, you could get them a boar. It might solve the problem. However, it might also not change anything or even make it worse. So I would consider going to a rescue if you were going to get a neutered boar and doing a bonding session there. And you would also need to expand the cage and make sure that you had enough of everything for all three piggies, especially if they were going to be quite dominant with each other. And our next question was from someone on YouTube. You said that you've got 6 males in groups of 2 and 2 singles. What tips do I have for bonding unneutered males? And you'd love for all 6 to live together someday. Okay, a lot of people would jump immediately to just say the chances of having 3 or more boars together is very, very unlikely. And I do kind of agree with that, but I have seen examples and heard from people where they've got a group of boars to get along, but I think it is very rare. So first of all, be prepared for it not to work out. I think if you were going to be introducing them, you might hope to maybe get 2 groups of 3 if the single ones go well into those other pairs. But with boars, it is going to be very testing. But they're naturally more dominant and more confident than females, so they're not going to want to back down as easily, and it could well lead to fights. Follow the standard introduction process. Do it on multiple times if you feel the need to. You probably need to think about expanding their cages. 3 boars, let alone 4, 5, 6, are going to need a lot of space to live happily together. So good luck with it. I would give it a go, but I would really honestly be prepared for it not to work out in that case. Okay, on to our next set of questions, which are all about taming and human interaction with our piggies. The first one is, how do you get a super, super nervous piggy comfortable with lap time and being handled? Okay, I think this one really starts with, firstly, how long has it been? Have you let them kind of settle in for a few weeks? Are they on their own? Because that can make a difference. If they've got companionship, then that can really help them to grow that confidence and come out of their shell quicker. If they don't have a companion, then I would really consider trying to get them a friend of the same sex. But as for lap time, most piggies will get comfortable with it over time. You just need to set up a routine, do it for a short period, try 3 to 4 times a week, getting them out for lap time, 10, 15 minutes. You might find that they exhibit fear responses in the beginning, like not moving at all, even if you're trying to hand feed them. That is completely normal, but just keep it up. And also with really timid piggies, it does help to have a blanket for lap time so they can sort of snuggle into it, and you can half cover them over and just have their little heads poking out. It really does just take time and patience though. And the next question is kind of related. So you asked, how long should I wait before holding my new piggies? If you've just got them, then you might need to pick them up. It's also hard to resist if they're young and absolutely adorable. You might want to check them over, give them a bit of a health check. You might need to lift them out of their cage when you're doing cleaning. That's completely fine. Don't be afraid of doing those things. But I would probably leave it maybe let them settle for 1 to 2 weeks before starting to get into that lap time routine that I was just talking about. Okay, on to the next question, for which I have the lovely Nacho out for, and that's because it kind of relates to Nacho a little bit, does this one. Sue, you asked on Facebook about one of your guinea pigs getting fighty and trying to bite whilst you put them back in the cage. And also MJ Anderson, you mentioned biting in the cage when you're interacting with them, and could he be territorial of the cage, for instance? And I think the sort of general advice that is put out there is that guinea pigs don't bite, and they're very, docile. And Nacho's not doing his thing at all, but he might, we'll see. Nacho does get a little bit agitated when I'm handling him and when I'm putting him back in the cage, to the point where he will, I wouldn't call it biting, but I would call it sort of angrily nibbling. He will do that and kind of pull on my skin. And I've seen it in other guinea pigs as well, but I know from experience that in those cases, they are not going to bite down hard. They're not going to try and draw blood or genuinely hurt you. And there's not much we can do to really avoid it, apart from maybe handling them in a certain way so they can't see the cage coming towards them. Maybe you put them in a bed and lower them in backwards, or in fact, sometimes guinea pigs can injure themselves by getting too agitated when you're putting them in the cage, and they'll sort of try and jump out your hands, and if they are successful, then they can hurt themselves and sometimes break their front teeth doing that. So just be aware of that if you have a guinea pig that does get quite agitated when you're putting them back in the cage. In general, it's sort of personality quirk that we can't do much about, I'm afraid. Nacho is not doing his thing. In fact, he's just like snuggling into my shoulder. And I can't what are you doing, buddy? It's just blank. There's nothing going on here, but I do think he wants to go back, bless him. He's happy. Now, our next question is, on YouTube, you asked whether I had any tips for picking up guinea pigs who are friendly but run away. And that is, I think, the vast majority of guinea pigs are like this. Once they've formed a bond with us and they've grown up out of their scared younger years, then they are very friendly and they'll come up to you when you approach the cage and beg for food, and then you go and pick them up and they're away. They're not having any of it. So that's very, very common. Guinea pigs just don't like the act of being picked up. They don't generally like being carried around. But once they're brought to whatever their destination is for floor time or lap time, then they're quite happy again. So it's just that process of picking them up. And I do have a video on this. I'll pop it down in the description below, where I talk about different scenarios and things you can do to make it a bit easier for yourself. And one of the main ones that is put out there and suggested is that you could lure them into a bed and scoop the whole thing up and then use that to transport them. And that's the sort of easiest way. The only thing is with that is some guinea pigs do get wise to it, and they know they're not going in that bed or that tunnel because then bad things are going to happen. So I think if that happens to you, it comes down to practice really, and you getting better at it and recognizing I need to encourage them to go into that part of the cage because then I'm going to be able to get them from the front and back easier. I'm going to need to put a hand in front of their face so that they can't try and swerve past it and run off. Or there might be specific hideys or houses that you can lift up or lift on their side and pick them up easier from there. So it really does just come down to practice, but I'll pop that video below. I highly recommend watching it if you've not seen it already. And the next question was asked on Instagram. You said, I would love to know your thoughts on piggies being therapy animals for autistic children. So here it really does depend on both the children and the guinea pigs, but I think in the right circumstances it can work really well, and I do know examples via social media and also in real life where guinea pigs have helped autistic children. I think the key thing really is to manage your expectations and realise that guinea pigs are not always natural born cuddlers. They don't always seek out human attention. If that is the goal, to kind of have as much contact as possible, then that might not happen because it just depends on the guinea pigs. However, introducing a care routine which they can help out with, if they're happy just observing the piggies without too much contact, then that could be really beneficial. And if you think you want to go for it, then I would opt for adopting a pair of older, more confident male or female piggies from a rescue. And with a rescue, you can also explain your situation, take their advice, and see what they would recommend in your circumstances, because they've probably experienced something like this before. And I'd recommend older piggies because often young piggies can take a long time to settle in, and really it's not until they're fully grown, which is like 8 months to a year, where they start to become less shy and really let their personalities shine through. So if you were to adopt or buy very young piggies, then you might find your expectations not being met in terms of the fact that they're just very scared all the time and they don't want to come out and they're scared of people trying to interact with them, versus if you get more confident piggies from a rescue. He's back. It wasn't my intention to get him out again, but here he is. The next couple of questions are about grooming, and a few of you asked, how do I look after Nacho's hair? So first things first, I do have a couple of videos on it. Firstly, cutting the hair around his bottom, and also when we gave him a bath. And those are the key things really. Long-haired guinea pigs, they are a bit of a pain to look after when it comes to their hair. The most important one is to trim the hair short around their bottom, and that's what I do with Nacho. He's just had his spring haircut. You really can't tell because he's just like a fluff ball, but I might embarrass him and show you some footage of his bottom and you'll be able to see how short it is down there, where it's likely to get tangled and soak up urine and get messy if we let it be any longer than the hair of a short-haired guinea pig. So that's the first thing. And then baths, he is likely to need another bath, just because in his case he does get a little bit dandruffy, bless him, and the bath definitely helped last time, but it's kind of coming back again. So I think we're going to try with some sort of antifungal, anti-dandruff shampoo and see if that helps him. But yeah, don't underestimate the care that a long-haired piggy needs. It is a lot. Oh, Nacho. That is one way to show your displeasure. I literally have a poop on me. Great. How do you get your long-haired piggies groomed without them jumping because of pulling on the comb? So yes, I can totally relate to this because Nacho here absolutely hates the comb. He also hates the scissors with a vengeance. He just despises them and he will jump and try to jump off the table and flinch away. The way to get around that is, well, firstly, I found that you don't need to comb them that often. With both curly hair and straight-haired varieties, if you keep the hair short around their bottom and their sides, then the hair doesn't really get tangled on top. Now he's doing the biting thing. Now he's biting me and you. Then you'll find that it doesn't really need combing that often. So you can start there, focus on cutting, and you won't need to comb it so much. And if you're struggling with the cutting like I was, then my best tip is to play some spa music or piano music, something strange that they don't normally hear. And you might find that it makes them go into a sort of frozen mode where they don't know how to respond. They're thinking, what is that weird sound? And that's what you need in order to cut them, to cut the hair properly. And that's what I have to do with Nacho. I appreciate that playing some strange music might be quite stressful for them, but it does make the whole thing so much quicker and so much easier, which I think in balance is less stressful for them. So that would be my number one tip if you haven't tried it already. And I'll pop those videos on cutting Nacho's hair and bathing him down below. What's happening? Hey, you're just in a strop. I know, he's okay. He's okay. And also for grooming, someone asked what my advice is for nail trimming with black nails. Now obviously this is not ideal because you cannot see the quick or the blood supply in the centre of the nail. So in this case, like with Callie, what I have to do every time is I just take a small amount off at a time. And once you get good at it, you can kind of gauge how much you can take off without them sort of flinching and reacting and pulling their leg away. So I would go for tiny increments at a time. Don't go too far because you could cut the quick by accident. And I'd also try and trim their nails on a more regular basis as well. Okay, back in the guinea pig room for the next couple of questions, which are all about guinea pigs and the vets. And the first one is from Button Pigs on Instagram. You asked, how do you find a vet you can trust? Now this is something that I feel like I've had so much experience with over the years, and I really sympathise for anyone kind of in that situation where they might not have a vet set up that they know to go to, and then suddenly it can be like, where do we take them? So I would prioritise, if you've got your guinea pigs recently, or even if you've had them for a while and you've never needed to go to the vet, then definitely prioritise finding a good vet for them. And where possible, this should be an exotics vet that has experience with guinea pigs. If they're not an exotics vet, then they should advertise themselves as some kind of specialist with guinea pigs, because otherwise a basic small animal vet here in the UK, and I believe it's the same in the US, then you're going to get, in the vast majority of cases, very limited sort of knowledge from them because they simply haven't studied guinea pigs. So look for an exotics vet, be prepared to travel, and when you're choosing them and getting them registered, you might talk to the receptionist, find out about who works there, have they got specialist interest in guinea pigs, and really you want them to be like, oh yes, you know, we look after guinea pigs for a rescue, like we perform routine operations for this rescue, or we have a bunch of clients that have guinea pigs and we've got a certain vet which is really experienced looking after them. If they're not telling you things like that, then they might not see guinea pigs that often, and I would try a few different places. And even if you have to go quite far, then trust me, finding a good vet is absolutely 100% worth it, and it is probably one of the most important things that you'll do for your guinea pig, so it's really important to get it right. And I would also kind of on the side recommend that you insure your guinea pigs. It's not something that I've spoken a lot in my videos about before, but I've had these guys insured for a year and a bit now, and it genuinely does help a lot. I didn't think it would, because I thought if you've got some money to put aside as their vet fund, then, and you've got that in the back of your mind, then that's fine. But things change, and you know, you end up paying for expensive stuff and the money might not always be there. And if you've been paying into an insurance policy, then in my experience, they've paid out when I needed them. And it really has taken away that sort of doubt of which vet should we go to. And I want to go to the best vet, but the best vet is also the most expensive. It takes that out of the equation and just makes it so much easier, which when our guinea pigs are poorly, that's one of the best things, really. Waffling. That was like 4 minutes on one question. That's not good. The next was from YouTube. You asked, how often should a guinea pig be taken to the vet? And I think you're kind of referring to like routine trips. And I think, yes, you can opt to do that if you want, particularly if you're a new owner, to maybe once a year, maybe once every 6 months if they get over 4 years, for example. However, if you feel confident that you already know, or you're going to learn yourself about health problems in guinea pigs and give them routine health checks and weigh them on a weekly basis, then I wouldn't really say that routine vet visits are that valuable, because if you're doing those things yourself, then chances are you're going to spot something when it becomes a problem, even if it's quite small. And of course, what can unfortunately happen is that our guinea pigs, something goes wrong with them and they go downhill very fast. And a routine visit isn't necessarily going to pick up on the chances of something like that happening either. So it depends really on you as an owner. I think, yes, some people, if that's your choice, that's totally fine, go for it. I don't think it's essential though. Okay, our next topic is all about guinea pig diet, and I sort of had a combination set of 3 questions all about pellets. So how many pellets a day should I feed to piggies? I have a piggy that's eating a lot of pellets, and do they need to go on a diet? And then also, do guinea pigs really need pellets? So we'll start with that one. I think the answer is no, but you have to sort of manage the rest of their diet quite well. You have to be giving them a very good high quality hay, as well as of course a good mix of fresh vegetables and herbs and grass where it is available. And a lot of owners do go ahead and completely cut pellets out of the diet. I don't think I'm quite at that stage yet, though recently I have cut down and sort of realised the importance of not overfeeding pellets, because essentially pellets, especially the very commercial brands, do have a lot of pointless fillers in, and Saskia from Los Angeles Guinea Pig Rescue talks about this as well. A lot of the brands have soy and various grains and things that are just packed in there as fillers really, and not doing our guinea pigs that much good. But of course then they do also have supplementary vitamin C and other minerals, so it's a kind of balance really. And I think a good starting point is limiting the amount of pellets that your guinea pigs eat. Look at what it says on the packet and go less than that. You can have a look on forums to see what others recommend, but I think I've seen it as low as like 1 tablespoon of pellets a day for 2 piggies. You know, they're just getting a very, very small handful. And that's kind of where I'm at with my piggies. I haven't really been measuring it out properly, but I've been trying to give them less than I normally do. Okay, our next question was from Katie on YouTube, and you mentioned that Bandit and Splodge get you a little bit worried because you don't see them drinking much, if at all. And could it be that they're getting enough water from their food? I think you sort of answered it yourself there. Yes, that is probably what's going on. Some guinea pigs just don't need to drink that much, and they are probably, if you're giving them things like lettuces and cucumber, getting most of their water from their food. In some cases, there could be a thing where they don't like using the water bowl or bottle that much, and my vets and me recently, well over the last sort of 3-ish years, I recommend giving them both a water bottle as well as a water bowl, and I do find that some guinea pigs prefer one over the other. So you could try that if you're worried, and I would sort of recommend it in general for encouraging them to up their water intake. Next up we have this question from Robin on YouTube. You said, do older piggies have more trouble digesting food such as grass and lettuce? And you mentioned that your 7-year-old piggy is getting diarrhea sometimes. So yes, I think you're right that older piggies can have trouble digesting certain foods, and it might be like you say, it might be lettuce, but it could also be like lettuce is fine for them and it's peppers that maybe make them flare up. It might not be diarrhea, but I find sort of like a bit of bloating and soft poos being a bit more common. Diarrhea is a little bit more worrying. It suggests that something's really upset the digestive system, but maybe you mean more like soft poos, whereas I think of diarrhea and I think of just like liquid, and that's not good. That I would treat that as an emergency and get them to the vet. But yes, for sure, you'll see as your guinea pigs get older that certain foods don't agree with them as much. And I think it's something to be aware of for anyone who has piggies who are over sort of 5 years old, probably over 4 years old when they're sort of classed as being senior. One of the things that can solve the problem is that you just don't give them quite so much at once. You spread it out a bit throughout the day, or maybe you feed it every other day instead of every day in like mountains at a time. And especially for any piggy who's had an episode of digestive upset before, then just be aware that some fresh foods or too much fresh food at once could be a trigger for them for something similar to happen again, and take steps to avoid that happening. Next up, we have another YouTube question, which was all about vitamin C, and they'd been advised from different sources whether they need to supplement vitamin C in their piggy's diet, including the vets recommending that they should. Now, I think the best comparison for this is to look at ourselves. We don't produce our own vitamin C, yet we are able to get most of it from our diet, even if our diet isn't always necessarily necessarily the healthiest and the best. And if our guinea pigs are having vegetables and herbs and fresh forage every day or every other day, then I think that does more than cover their vitamin C requirements. So it is sort of outdated advice now that you need to be giving them supplements as well. I've owned guinea pigs for 17 years and I've never ever given them vitamin C supplements, and none of them have ever had any problems that might suggest a vitamin C deficiency. The only exception might be if they've got long-term health problems or they're going through an illness and you want to support their immune system and make sure that you're giving them more than enough vitamin C, then you could supplement it then with a tablet. Never put it in the water because it can put them off drinking. But in the vast majority of cases, I would say that vitamin C supplements are not needed. Okay, our final topic is guinea pig holidays. And no, it's not the guinea pigs going on holiday, it's us, what we do when we have to go away and get someone to come and look after them or have them boarded somewhere. And the first question was from Button Pigs on Instagram. You asked who watches my piggies when I'm on holiday, and I am fortunate enough to have family that are well versed in looking after the guinea pigs. The guinea pigs actually have their own setup at my mum's house. We take them round there and they'll go and live with her for however long we're away for, which is a really good solution because often there's cases where there's medicines and things that need doing that's above and beyond normal care, and I'm really fortunate in that mum can help out with those things as well. But what we also might be doing is have my boyfriend's parents come and stay in our house while we're on holiday, and they're going to look after the guinea pigs here as well. So that's a kind of equally good setup that we'll have going on there. The next one was on YouTube. I think you said you were going away for a couple of weeks and you wanted to know what the most important care tips are that you should tell the person who's going to be looking after your guinea pigs. If they are completely new to guinea pigs, I would definitely do a sort of in-person demonstration and show what kind of stuff day-to-day care routine that you do for them so they can see for themselves how much care is needed. And I would also write it all down for them as well so they've got that to refer to, because especially if there's a sort of gap and they don't know about looking after guinea pigs or they've not looked after similar animals, then it can really help to have something written down for them to refer to, and then they're not going to miss anything out. But I guess the most important tips would be cleaning them out every day or spot cleaning every day. Also making sure that they don't run out of fresh water. They've always got their water changed every day, and also that they've got unlimited good quality hay. And for our last one, you asked on YouTube, how easy is it to find somewhere reputable to piggy sit when you take time away from the herd? I've put here for holidays if they allow. I don't know whether you wrote that or I did. I know, it's like, I don't know whether we're going to get to go or not in all seriousness because they run a hard ship. But no, how easy is it to find somewhere reputable? I think it is fairly easy. I would start with looking at, this is from a sort of UK perspective, I would start with guinea pig rescues because a lot of them do offer some sort of boarding service on the side. And obviously if they're running a rescue, then you would hope that they are really experienced with guinea pigs and they know what they're doing. And there's also a lot of sort of individual businesses that do guinea pig and or rabbit boarding, and you can go on their website, see what they're all about, read reviews and get an idea for how good they're likely to be. And you can also visit these places in person and see for yourself and gauge the impression that you get off them. You know, are they going to take proper care of your guinea pigs or not? And I would really go to that effort. And equally, if you're having people visiting you, then I would, you know, sit down, have a discussion with them, find out their experience, make sure that they know about guinea pigs. And again, as we said before, write everything down for them if they are coming to the house. So I think it's not a massive issue. I think it can be fairly easy. It might be a bit of a drive out of your way depending on where you live, but if you can be safe in the knowledge that your guinea pigs are being looked after properly, and you might even get updates sent to you on your phone whilst you're on holiday, then that really is the ultimate. That's the best thing, because you don't want to be worrying about them while you're meant to be off having fun. And that is our first lot of questions done. Again, thank you for anyone who asked them. I hope you got the answers that you were looking for. Let me know down below if not, or if you've got more questions on top of the original questions, that's fine. But we will be having another session next week where we are going to cover the rest of the topics. And these are things like me and my guinea pigs, the herd and what they're all about, like their personalities in things, also guinea pig cages and accessories, questions about the future setup in the room next door and maybe future herd, what might happen with that, and also some on future upcoming YouTube videos and kind of requests that I've had. So look forward to that one. I hope you enjoyed this video. Do drop us a comment and a like if you did, and we will see you in the next one. Bye bye!